Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Hello to all the new subscribers. Hello to all the old subscribers. So glad you're joining me today. This is the example of the card that I'm going to show you today. So this is part 3 of using a crease pad to create this stunning feature on your card. So that's what I'm going to show you today. So what you're going to need in order to do this is you're going to need a die cut. Okay. You're going to need the Sizzix crease pad, standard size, whatever size fits for your die cutting machine. This is a standard size, so you should be able to pick this up pretty much wherever you pick up your Sizzix cutting plates. Scrapbook.com, Simon Says Stamp. Here in Canada, probably Ecstasy Crafts. The crease pad, this is what it looks like here. It's similar to the pad that comes with your embossing. It is a little bit malleable, but it's a bit hard, like kind of like a tire a little bit. So it's a little like the magic pad that you can use for cutting into. But essentially what this does is it stops your die. It only makes the creases. It stops your die from cutting all the way through, similar to when you are embossing a die cut. Okay. So I'm going to apologize up front. I am having challenges with my internet, so the image might freeze, but you should still be able to. I believe my voice is still going to keep going, and then it'll do a quick to catch up to where I'm at. If I notice it freezing, I'll try and hold it in place there for a couple of minutes just so that you guys can get the idea. I do know it's a problem. Please don't bother to comment on it. I know it's a problem. I'm trying to get it fixed, but yeah, turns out the internet companies don't always know what they're doing. Anyway, so this is the crease pad. This is the most important piece of what we're going to be doing. So you need it for the last 3 techniques. Last 2 that I showed in the video, and then this one today is the final one that I'll be demoing with this. When you're setting this up, essentially you're going to set it up making a sandwich as if you were going to be embossing a die. Okay, so the die that I'm going to be using today is this beautiful mousse, reflective in the water here. Okay, I'm going to take a piece of cardstock. This is just ordinary 65-pound cheapo cardstock that I have added double-sided, full sheet of double-sided adhesive to it. This is a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so A2 size piece of paper. I'm going to take that and I'm going to have it the adhesive side up so I can see my release paper, and then I'm going to put my die cut into that because I want it to cut the release paper, not all the way through. Okay. And I'm going to do this and I'm going to send it through my machine. I don't think you'll hear it, but you might hear it. A little bit of groaning and whining here off to the side using my Gemini Junior, which I love. Okay, there we go. So taking this off, I can put these to the side. That's all I needed it for. Okay, so I'm going to pull up my die. I'm actually going to pull up my, release it from the paper and the background here. But when I'm releasing it, I want to make sure that the release paper stays here, like stays where it's meant to be. See, I'm going to push it back into place because I don't want it releasing yet. Okay, so you can see that it has cut through on the release paper, but pretty much not most of the background. So it's only done an impression. It did cut through a little bit there, but that's not too bad. I can work with that. Okay. So while you've got your die cutting machine out and you have your die out, you also want to cut an extra die because we're going to put that on top, similar to some of the techniques that we've done with the colored glitter and the foil that we did. This is going to go on top. So it could be white, could be a different color, could be black, whichever you like. This to me is a silhouette, so I cut those out in black. I have, what do I have here? I have this poinsettia that I just love to have in the white on top. Like, well, you can't see it there, but I like the white of it on top, not black. So I cut that out in white. However, you do need the base cardstock that you use, or paper, whatever. It does need to be white because we don't want the color from below coming through into our project of what we're doing. Okay. So first thing that I'm going to do is I am going to peel up, and I lied. First thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to trim around the edge so that this is what I'm left with. So I'm just going to cut away my double-sided adhesive rather than keeping all of this on here. I don't need it. So I'm using my scissors that have are resistant to sticky adhesives. It's not perfect, but they're pretty darn good. These are the Tim Holtz ones, and there's a coating in the way that they're made helps them not hold on to the glue of the stickiness of the adhesive. Now, again, this doesn't need to be perfect because this is going to be my base layer. So this is going to be on top. All right. There we go. Okay. Okay. So I've trimmed all the way around. This is essentially garbage unless you feel like you can use this on something, then go ahead, knock yourself out, but I'm just going to throw that away. All right. Now what I want to do is looking at my die cut, all of these areas here that are showing white, like the white of my desk, those I want to lift up. I want to leave the black part all intact. Okay. So what I'm do is get in here, try and peel up as much of So the tools that I recommend using to do this, you're going to want either a weeding tool, sharp pair of tweezers, something to that extent. If you were watching the first video that I did with the foiling, you saw me jab myself with my tweezers. They're very, very sharp. I don't recommend that. I do recommend a sharp pokey tool or a weeding tool or, yes, tweezers that will jab you. But if you're smart, you won't jab yourself like I did. So I'm going along and I am picking out all of these little areas. If I'm unsure if it has an area there or not, I can also look at my die. That's why I like to keep the die in front of me, because there are a lot of areas that sometimes the double-sided adhesive on here makes it difficult to see. Sometimes the crease lines are behind the printing on the double-sided adhesive, like where it says Soup Wang there, makes that challenging to see. So I'm just going to go through and I'm trying to keep my finger out of the giant sticky area there. So I'm trying to hold it where the release paper still is. The more that I put my finger on that area, then the less adhesive there is there. And this loses some of its stick. I mean, it would still work. It's not the end of the world, but why bother chancing it when I have this nice big area that I can hold on to still here? Ah, look, see, I just jabbed myself again with my tweezers. So did anybody make any comments on the last couple of videos? What did you think of the techniques? I mean, I find the focal point for the cards just beautiful, but maybe that's just me. I I do like a little bit of shine, a little bit of bling. Maybe not everybody else does. And the other thing that I'm curious about, how many of you actually have this crease pad? Because it's an old tool. Like yeah, it's not new like some of the stamp pads and positioners and things like this. This has been out from, you know, I think about the time that they started making die cutting machines. So it's certainly been out there. So some of you definitely that have been crafting for a long time, paper crafting in particular, might already have had this thing. So this technique, much like a lot of the techniques that I also teach and whatever, I learned from a YouTube videos by Stacy from scrapbookingmadesimple.com. It is a store out of the States. She's a wonderful small business, and she has phenomenal YouTubes. I will say, however, that if you think my YouTubes are long, hers are long. They're definitely as if you were getting a class. Mine is much the same. You can do your project pretty much in the same time that I'm doing mine, step by step if you want, or go back and watch it. Make sure you have the equipment, whatever, and in real time. But she'll do usually 5 or 6 different types of techniques. What's really great though, what I love about her is that she'll often tell you like what can you use instead. Um, you know, if you don't have that particular product, those kind of things, which is really nice for yeah, and she encourages you to support your small local businesses, things like that. So it's really very lovely person. Or seems to be anyways. I don't know her personally. I just really enjoyed watching her videos. And so yeah, this is one of the techniques that I learned from her and thought, oh, I do love myself a little bit of bling. I might have to learn how to do that. So I did. I taught this actually at a class, oh, I think it's 5 or 6 years ago now, out at a crop in, if you're here in Alberta, Drayton Valley that I hosted. And, but it's been a while and I didn't do it for YouTube, obviously, because I'm just getting around to it now. And I thought this would be a really great refresher for those of you that may have taken it. May have taken the course when I did it way back when. But for those of you who have this tool and aren't sure how to use it or have never pulled it out, let's pull it out and do these. I made a bunch of Christmas cards. So you've seen some of the, sorry, there's just a few little guys right here. I'm trying to talk to you and keep you entertained while I'm poking out these little guys here. One year I did a lot of angels and that. So when I did the foiling video, you may have seen the beautiful stained glass. Was it the candle? I did a bunch of Christmas cards with those. I have some angels and I had a Santa Claus and an elf, and they all had those because they're die cuts, so they all had those beautiful little lines on them, and they all turned out like stained glass windows on the front of my card. They were just beautiful. I was really happy with the results. So of course, usually when I'm really happy with results, I want to teach everybody how to do it. And so hence the video. Okay. So just getting down to the nitty gritty on these last few little pieces here, which is a bit of a pain in the butt, but I want to have all of these little areas exposed before I move on to the next part for the technique. So while you're waiting for me to poke these out here, the other thing that I'm going to tell you that you will need, this is going to be using alcohol markers. However, I do not recommend that you use your expensive alcohol markers. I actually recommend that you use something like a Sharpie. Any kind of permanent marker will do. So Sharpies, Bic, whatever you've got that is an alcohol marker. I'll be using some really old alcohol markers that I have, but I wouldn't recommend if they're good quality ones like Copics or something like that. Please don't use those for this particular technique because you'll probably be wrecking your nib. The only thing that you will need is you need a colorless blender. I picked up a colorless blender, a Copic colorless blender that is used specifically and only for this technique because it's the nib will get wrecked or it gets stuff on it that is not conducive to coloring and using using your good quality materials and stuff like that. Okay, so like I said, I don't recommend using your good quality Copics. Okay, so I have now peeled off. Oh, geez, I thought I had them all. Look at, I just found 2 more. Anyone? Okay. Wait. Oh, what is that? Aha. Aha. That was a big one. Okay. There's another one right there. See? You can see where this little one is lost right there in the printing. Makes it very difficult to see. There we go. Now, if you don't manage to get all of them, it's not the end of the world, but I do want to try and get as many right now as I can because it just makes this part of the technique that much easier. Okay, the next thing that you're going to need is some microfine white or clear glitter. So it needs to be transparent or transparent, but like basically the white color, okay? Clear, whatever that kind of glitter is. Now, this particular one does have a bit of a sheen, but you can use, you want it to be microfine or extra fine. Those are marketed as the same, microfine, extra fine, doesn't matter. You can get, like Tim Holtz, his rock candy glitter, I believe is a microfine, and it has no glitz to it. Like in here, you can see in the light how that's shining on the light, right? But you can actually get glitter that doesn't have that shine to it. That makes it nicer if you're making men's cards, if you're doing this technique and making men's cards. So now what I'm doing is I'm just kind of covering all of those areas that were exposed, these exposed adhesive parts. I'm just kind of covering all of that up here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to start to buff. I'm going to rub the glitter and make sure that it is adhering to the exposed adhesive that was under there. Okay. Anything else will buff away. So that's why I'm also doing it over my container, because it can go right back into my container. Okay. So all of these little puddle areas, make sure that I'm just kind of going in a circular motion. And essentially what this is doing is pushing the glitter into that adhesive so that once we are finished this technique and kind of put it back in here, you know, one of the things that people really hate about glitter is that it gets everywhere. Well, this is a really good way of utilizing your glitter, just like in the last technique that we did, without it going everywhere. Okay. Okay. Now that feels pretty good. I've gone and covered pretty much everything. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm going to take a little brush and I'm just going to give it a rub here. It's just kind of going to push things away around there, but I'm also going to kind of give it a sweep back into my container. Just like that there. I'm just going to use my fingers, draw it off of, there's a little bit of, you can see where it's sticking to the release paper because the release paper has quite a bit of static to it. So that's not unheard of. So I'm just going to sweep it, kind of grip it, and pull that back into the container. Okay. My hand's a bit of a wipe here over my container. Then I'm going to close that because, you know, with glitter, what happens is you sneeze and poof, it's all over. So now I do have a little bit of glitter on my spice here, but not a lot, right? Like not the normal amount that you think, oh my God, she's been using glitter. So I'm just going to take my microfiber cloth here. You could use baby wipe, whatever you've got. And I'm just going to give that quick little wipe here. Kind of shake that out over my garbage can. There we go. Okay, so I want to keep now in front of me. So I've got my die cut here. I want to keep the die cut in front of me so that I can see the areas that I'm going to be adding color to. Okay, so I have my colorless blender by Copic. Okay, it can be any colorless blender. It doesn't have to be specifically a Copic one, but I got this from Michael's. I used my 40% off coupon, I think, at the time. But this is refillable, and this is specifically this Copic blender, colorless blender, is used only for this technique because you get glitter and whatnot all over the brush, which is not conducive for coloring in other mediums and stuff like that. So this is my only one that I use it for, is for this. Okay. Now, as I said, what I would recommend, so this is the brush tip so that I can get in there and kind of draw the color along and things like that. This is very similar to watercoloring, but I'm using alcohol markers. And this is the easiest way, one of the easiest ways to practice kind of like water, like shading, because you can add your color and then use your alcohol to pull it out and add color into other areas. Okay. The only thing that you need to watch is that you're not using so much alcohol that you're what would it be? Wiping away or deactivating the adhesive like this suquang that's on the back, the double-sided adhesive. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to keep, so these areas here where the ripples are, I'm going to say that those are going to be like light areas of light where the light would be as it's rippling. That's going to be the top of the pond, right? So it's going to make a ripple like this. So it's going to have a high and then a low, or a mountain and then a valley. Okay, so all of these areas I'm going to want to have lighter. This area in here is going to be the darker or the deeper part of the lake. And then this area here where I'm imagining the sun is, that's going to be some reflective. So I want this part to be lighter. Okay, so I'm hoping that all makes sense. So I'm going to start out here at the darkest area, and I'm going to add in some shading. So you can see here, this is these are some Spectrum Noir. I bought them many, many years ago. And yeah, so I'm not really considering them to be, these are not my good alcohol-based markers. Okay. So I'm just going to add in some fairly dark tones. This is a very dark kind of navy blue color here. And I'm just kind of dotting the color along. I don't want to drag it necessarily, because then I'm going to lift and pull all that glitter off of the adhesive, which I don't really want to do, because it's just going to stick basically to my my pen, which is not what I want. Okay. And we're just going to go around the back of the moose. And I'm also going to go underneath the moose. I'm just dotting, because they would, where the moose is here is, it would be throwing some shadows, right? So that's going to be a darker area. If I imagine the light is coming from up here, coming down this area here where the moose is, it's going to be throwing quite a few shadows, right? Okay. So let's show you here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some blender solution just to these areas. And what it's going to do, I don't know if you can see that. Let's see here if you can. Just going to keep adding here, and then I'll pull it up for you to see here. Because of course, what the colorless blender does is it actually pushes your color into different areas. That's what it does. So when you're using alcohol markers, I don't know if you watched my videos on coloring with alcohol markers, but what it does is it either dissipates your color, or you can actually use it to push your alcohol, like it will reactivate or activate the color in your alcohol marker and push it out. So you can see, or you can maybe even hear the scratching, because I am on this particular one. I don't know if you can see, but it is picking up off the brush there. Turn my light up just, oh yeah, oh, all of a sudden it's like daylight, holy cow. Yeah, so it is picking up some glitter, but look at the shading that I'm getting. So I started here with the fine line right around here of, it's not fine, I mean, it's as thick as my marker was, but a line of darker color. And it doesn't matter if it's getting on the release paper, that's fine. The release paper we're gonna lift. So this is why you want to do this before you put your die cut down, because we can cover up all of these lines and things like that. But I can go in here and draw that color. So if I'm thinking that that line is a little harsh, let's go in and draw that color out. That's fine, no problem. Okay. Look at those tones and highlights to that. Okay, so what do we want to color next? next. So that was pretty dark, but I like that tone. So let's use that along the edge of the mousse in here. Because again, even though it would still be throwing some shadow, and that is the deeper edge. As I said, that's going to be the deeper edge of the lake. So I do want that area to be the darker spots. So it would be dark underneath him there. Him, her, well, it's got some antlers, so it's probably a male. Yeah, let's pull that out. Let's see. Okay, so now I'm just going to take my marker. This is my colorless blender again. And I'm adding, so it's activating the alcohol that's in here. And I'm using it, using this marker, the blender, to pull that color out. If you're unsure about how to do shades and highlights and things like that, this is a really great technique to learn that, because you start with your darkest or whatever color you want, and then as you're pulling it out, it's going to lighten. So you're only using the one color, which is great. So before I go and clean this off, I'm going to catch the edges on this side, because this is also should be just as dark as over there. So we've got this edge here around the cattail. Like that. We'll do the top of that edge there. And we'll go, where it is that? Right there. Yeah, like that. Okay, so I'm just taking, I have a piece of paper off here off to the side where you can see I've been doodling. And essentially what I'm doing is I'm just kind of wiping along the top there to get that glitter off. I don't want to leave my glitter on there. I mean, if I was still using the pen, then there's no point in cleaning it off. But I think this is the last I'm going to need of that particular blue. So I want to clean my brush off there. Now with the colorless blender here, you can hear me. I am dragging this one along. So that's why I'm saying you want to make sure that whatever brush, if you're purchasing this, your colorless blender, that it is only used for this technique, because you will bugger up your the nib on your thing. Now, I will say I've done this many, many, many times, and I take care of it and clean it off as much as I can. But you know, that's still going to be a bit of a challenge. So I've used this a lot. It's been a good that's where I was going with it. It's been a good investment. I haven't had to replace the nib yet. So now the other thing that I want to do is I'm going to clean out, I'm going to draw on my paper here. So I'm going to clear the glitter off of it, but I'm also going to run this like this to make sure that I don't have any color in it. So despite the fact that it's the tip of my brush here is colored blue or stained blue, there is no color coming out of it because I'm going to switch colors. Now I'm going to another blue, so it's not the end of the world, but still, you might be doing a different kind of color, right? So got to kind of show you all the techniques there. Okay, so now I'm going to come in with this slightly brighter blue in some areas here. Let's see here. Now, what I want to do with this particular one is I'm going to be pulling this in and kind of having it match up with the, I'm going to bring it down so that it pulls in with this other blue that I have on the go here. And I'm not adding color everywhere because I want to be able to drag it in and out, kind of lighten it, get some different tones. So now let's, first of all, let's catch these colors up here at the top. So because I'm right-handed, I want to bring that in. So let's drag that color down into there. That. And I don't know if you guys can see it or not on here, but you can see here in the spaces, I haven't actually colored in all of the glittered areas. I've just added a touch of color because now I can add my colorless blender and then pull it out, pull that color out the same way that I did with this. So I had the darker edge here and then I pulled it out. And that's how it's going to allow me to get these really wonderful differing shades just using the one pen, right? Okay. Lighten that a little bit. That one. Now, some of these darker areas, like right here, that's actually where I ended up coloring on the release paper, which is fine because that is going to be lifted up. So that doesn't matter. I just want to get a nice blend of these two colors. So I'm bringing the lighter color down into this deeper tone here so that I get that shading and these two blues mixing together. It doesn't need to mix together everywhere, but I do want to have a bit of a blend. See that? How I'm getting the lighter blue into the darker blue and still leaving some lighter areas here so that it looks like light. Okay. All right, now, so now again, so I finished with that blue, so I am going to take it over here, draw the glitter off. Okay. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to get the glitter off of my nib on this one, and then I'm going to draw out that color. There we go. Okay. So the one that I want to use now, this is a deeper, or sorry, not a deeper, a lighter color. So this is my cheat sheet for my swatching for my uh, colors that I have on the go here, because these are all my really, really old ones. So the two colors that I had used was this one here, TB5 and TB9 of the Spectrum Noir. So the TB9 is obviously this darker color. TB5 was this one. This is TB3. So again, it's another shade, 2 shades lighter. That's the one that I want to use in this area to have those pooled highlights kind of thing where the ripples would be. I might add some more of the TB5 down in here and lighten those out, but let's see how that plays out. Okay, so I've got one right there, one right there. Okay, so it's a little hard to see on this glitter. So again, that's one of the reasons why you want to keep your die in front of you, because then you can use it as a reference for where have I added color, where do I not need color, right? Okay, so now I'm going to go in and I'm going to start drawing out that color. Oh, no, that color might not be deep enough. Oh, there we go. Okay. So, and this is another practice of one of those times of don't bin it or throw it away until you've actually finished. Because over here, it doesn't even look like I've added color. There's a couple of places here where there's color. You can see it on the release paper, but it doesn't look like I'm adding anything into the glitter area. But I am. And if I were to lift and when we lift the release paper and put the other one on top of it, you'll be amazed at the different tone that is there. It's not just the clear. So all I'm looking to do is to have this shading start to come through. I want it to start appearing. I don't want the glitter to be white. I want it to have that slight tone. That's what happened here. If you look here, it doesn't look like there's any color there when I was coloring it, and yet it's a very faint blue. That's what this is going to look like. It's not going to have a ton of tone to it like it does over here. It's just going to be quite faint, and that's all right. Okay, and then I'm going to take the TB5, and I'm not going to change, I'm not going to wipe off anything because I don't think that I need to. I'm going from a lighter color to a darker color here. So just go in and push that color around a little bit here. Okay. And then I can bring that, whatever's on my brush from that darker color, I can bring that up a little bit too if I feel like I want to blend those in. Okay. There we go. Some of that darker color there. Okay, I think I'm pretty happy with that. So first of all, whoops, I'm going to take the glitter off of my pen here. Okay. I don't think I got, yeah, I didn't get any of that, so that's fine. Now I'm going to clean off the glitter off of this pen as well, and then clean out. And I like to clean out the ink out of it right away as soon as I'm done, because otherwise I'll go to use it the next time and I'll have forgotten that I didn't clean it or something like that. So best practice is to always just do it right away. Okay, so I'm going to put that to the side. Now, the next thing that I want to do, just to check and make sure that I've released most of the release paper, I'm going to put this here and check and see if there's any areas that are still showing kind of white, right? Look at how cool that looks. All right, so now I'm going to use my tweezers, my deadly tweezers again, and I'm going to get in here and I'm going to lift. So by what we've done is we've essentially created a barrier for the color to not get into, right? So that's what all of these, as I'm lifting and releasing the release paper here, essentially what I'm doing is exposing all of these places. But by having this release paper on there, we've created this phenomenal barrier. So you can now see how blue the water is by the mousse there. So we've created a barrier and the color doesn't tend to go underneath there. But that's the reason why we wait to put this on top, is in case we did get some color under there. Can you imagine if this was white and you had just been doing all of that coloring? Black isn't so bad, but even then black will still show some color or some streaks on it where you might have been coloring or not. Okay, so now what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to hover over this and try and get it as centered and over top in the right spots as possible. Doesn't have to be totally perfect because you can always go back and add some more glitter into the places that don't quite match up, because again, you don't want it to be sticky, right? So, and I didn't get it entirely perfect, but it's pretty darn good. And you can see here where I missed, I actually ended up, when I was cutting out this die cut, this little cattail ripped, which was a bit of a bummer. So what I want to do here is pull out my little trick of glitter here, and I can just go back in, catch the glitter along the edge. If I didn't manage to fit my die cut on here perfectly, which I didn't. And there was that one area that ripped. Boo hoo hoo. But I can go in so much as you can also do this with your embossing buddy too, like your anti-static powder bag that you would use when you were embossing. So to make it not have a stick to it. This isn't your jam. That's all right. Okay. So, and again, so I don't sneeze, I'm going to cover that up, close it up. So, take my microfiber cloth, give this a little bit of a dust. Okay, so now I've got this one cattail here that is quite, what's the word I want to look at? It's pretty white. So I'm going to add some color to that, and I'm going to use, I think I'm going to use the TB5. So I'm just going to dot a few colors along there. Also got a bit of white that is showing in this area here, a little bit here, a little bit, little bit, little bit. Not a lot. Like I hit it pretty decently. So, and I don't want to have to go in and do a ton of shading, which is why I'm using the lighter of the two colors here. Okay. Because the bottom area, that's fine. We don't need to do anything down there. And I didn't touch it enough. I can see I don't have any glitter on there, so that's fine. But the lower area down here, it's fine. It's not got a even if it did have some white, that would be okay. So now all I'm going to do is just in those few places where I touched it up with a little bit of the new color or the color there. I just want to go in, draw out that, make sure that I'm drawing it along the glitter. Blending it in. Where this cattail is here, I'm just going to blend that in, blend it out a little bit. In, out, however you want to think about it. The only thing I recommend is don't get too carried away though, because like I said, the more alcohol you put on here, so now I'm cleaning off the glitter and cleaning the ink out of my pen. I'm going to keep repeating that because it's very important. Okay. The only thing that you want to watch when you're doing this is that you're not using so much alcohol that you are then reactivating or disintegrating, like not wearing out, but dissolving. That's the word I'm looking for. You're not dissolving the adhesive that's behind there. You're just going, okay? So let's put this on a card. Let's kind of get a feel for how it looks, because I think it's going to be quite lovely. All right, so I'm not even going to put a sentiment on there. I'm going to pop this up. Am I going to pop this up? Nope. You know what? It has just enough oomph to it. It's got enough sparkle without being like really showy. This is kind of what I imagine like a morning. Do I want to put it up? No, I really don't want to pop it up. Sorry about that. That was a last minute decision there. This has enough oomph to it without being like super showy. This is actually going to become a men's birthday card, but you know, like a masculine birthday card. So even with the glitter though, even though it isn't the plain non-sparkly glitter, which as I told you, you can get like the Tim Holtz rock candy, things like that is very, it doesn't have that extra shine to it. It has the texture and the glitter, so you can add color to it without having that extra va-va-voom, whatever you want to call it. I don't know how to describe it offhand here. But yeah, so you can do that. But if you look at this, this is what, to me, this is what water looks like when it's shining, right? So I'm going to try and center that. Ish. It's nice to have the liquid adhesive. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good. And so now I'm going to come in with my bit of a push. Let that sit for a moment. Let the glue, the adhesify, attach itself, whatever. Rub it off my fingers here. Okay. Make sure that that is adhered. So again, what you need for this technique, you need the crease pad, some double-sided adhesive, and you're best off to be using like a full sheet. You don't want to have this streak in between. Like a 2-inch would not do for this because you'll actually see the line where you go to add your adhesive, when you go to add your glitter and stuff like that, you will actually see it. So I do recommend having the bigger pieces of the double-sided adhesive. You'll need a die cut, obviously, some microfine or ultra fine glitter in white, clear, however you want to think about that, and some alcohol markers, colorless blender. That's going to be probably between that and the crease pad. That's going to be your most expensive buy. I don't really consider the double-sided adhesive because you use it for so many other things. But this guy and the crease pad, I think I paid 20 bucks for the crease pad, maybe 15. Like, it wasn't a lot. It's just an investment, right? It's a tool that's going to be in there. Same thing as this. This was $8 Canadian at Michael's, and then I got 30 or 40% off. So I think I paid like $6.50, no, $5.50, something like that for it. So not super expensive, and I only use it for this technique. So that's the trick, is to know that. And then alcohol markers, but you can use Sharpies or GIFs or Bic pens, whatever you've got. The cheaper, the better. And again, you're going to dot your color on and then use your Copic or your colorless blender to draw it out. Draw it out. Okay. So this is the card we made today. This is the card I made yesterday. This is actually going to be for my hubby for our anniversary. It's our anniversary tomorrow, celebrating 28 years married, 33 years together. It's kind of shocking. It's been that long, and it passed in a blink of an eye. So yay us. And yeah, but look at how the shading, this is coloring really easy. So if you want to practice with shades and colors and things like that, you've only got the one marker. I got multiple different shades of blue, 3 different shades from just that one blue pen. I could have done the same thing with this blue pen. I could have done the same thing with this blue. So you don't need to have multiples of them. This is like a gold yellow color that I used, and I got 4 different shades and used it for the lighthouse as well, right? Like, so there's many different things that you can do. This was actually one blue pen. I didn't use 3 different pens. This was one blue pen. This was the darkest, and then I drew it out and had it really, really light at the top. So those are all possibilities. Well, I hope you have a play. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I will see you in the next one. Please leave your comments below. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for subscribing. Really do appreciate each and every one of you. And I will hopefully see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.